On this episode of The Breakthrough Show, we're meeting a young man who is the Chief Victory Officer of his own company, Overcome Adversity, Kawan Glover. Kawan shares his own story of being a stroke survivor, among other challenges, to let everyone know that while some things may not be your fault, it is your responsibility to fight to achieve the victory you want in your life. We'll also be having a conversation with Kuti Mack and his adorable daughter in the kitchen. While he educates us about the importance of juicing vegetables, Cody tells us about his journey to understanding the power of nutrition in addition to fitness and stress management. Throughout this chat, you'll come to understand why Cody is known as the Fitness Philosopher. All this and more coming up, so stay tuned.
Life gives us moments when we have the opportunity to make a choice, and what we choose has the potential to change our lives forever. Join us now for another inspired episode of The Breakthrough. And now, please welcome the creator and host of the show, Jessica Dugas.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Breakthrough Show. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and I'm super thrilled that you have taken time out of your day to be here with us today on this episode. This is going to be an incredible show, and it's one of those ones that I say this often, but every now and then you come across people that you have a hard time stopping talking. And so I just know that that's going to be how this episode is going to go today. Coming up later in the show, we're going to be talking to my good friend Kawan Glover, who has an incredible story. He had a stroke very, very young, and then has had to overcome that and a lot of other things, and is now become an incredible author and speaker so young in life. And so we're really excited to talk to him later on in the show. But coming up first, this is a guy, I think we're going to have him back on the show like several times to talk about all different topics. No surprise, he's as multi-passionate as I am. He has been in the music industry, but he's really focused now on this philosophy of being your best daily. And I just love that. Really focused on fitness and the nutrition as an important part of fitness as well. So we'll be talking about that today too. So coming up first on the show, please welcome the fitness philosopher, Kuti Mack. Welcome.
Hey, Jessica, it's great to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here, and I'm sad because we planned on meeting in our separate kitchens today, but at the time of our recording, we are snowed in Alabama. We have not been able to go to the store, so I'm going to be like just wishing we had that ability to put food and drinks through the screen.
Well, you know what we can do is, whenever we watch this back, we can then just virtually do that that way. Or when I come back, we can do it again with some new ingredients.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm so glad that you're here, and I would love for you to start out by sharing with our audience something that's bringing you joy today.
Oh man, what is bringing me joy today is so literally, like you said, it's snowing across the country. 70% of the country, including Houston, Texas, is colder and getting more snow than Alaska. Yeah. Just think about that for a second. But with that, I got my beloved daughter, my number one, my heart. She's not in school, and so she's like, hey, I want to be here with you. And just the fact that she's enthusiastic about participating and spreading health and nutrition and methods to make everybody have a chance at being their best daily, the fact that she's actually excited about that brings me absolute joy.
I love that so much. We have a gaggle of children around here. So I love getting them involved in the kitchen. And of course, including them in some of the work like you and I do of staying positive and being the best person that you can be. I wish that those were things that were instilled in me a little harder when I was little. And I think, our parents did the best that they could do, but I'm glad that we have the ability to kind of set that stage for our kids, right?
It's so humbling to, be a parent and then realize how little of a handbook actually does exist,
right.
So, and what's wild is I became a parent a full decade later than my parents did.
Mm-hmm.
And I still don't have answers. And I go back and think about what I was thinking about when I was their age, when they were raising me, and I as a kid was looking at them for everything.
Yeah.
And it's even more impressive, you know. I mean, my father's an immigrant, mother is too, but you know, father was the first one to cross the Atlantic to come here from Nigeria. And it's like,
Wow.
to think, like for me to make a cross country move requires me to sit and think about it, right? You know, at least consider he left the whole country. You know what I mean? So when you think about that, it's the cool thing is we survive, we make it, and then we have a chance to make it a little bit better or impart a little bit more of those lessons on the next crew coming up, and then so on and so forth, if that's the way it actually goes.
So I know that you have had quite the history, and we had talked about this before. We're going to try to rein it in today.
Right. Hey, you tell me where we got to go. That's where we'll go.
But I know, so you were in the music industry. You've been through a lot personally on a very personal level yourself, but why focus on fitness? What is your why in that area?
Quickly, my purpose, which I think was always my purpose, but my purpose became very crystalline in the sense that I was helping people in real ways. I was helping people's lives change for the better. And I'm not trying to make it like I'm some kind of messiah, but what I'm saying is that when I was doing what I was doing, I was having fun doing it. I was enjoying doing it. And I didn't even catch that the most important byproduct of what I was doing when I was doing it correctly was actually saving lives and changing lives. So if you had somebody who was dependent on 6 or 7 medications, they'd come back, or their spouse would come back to me and say, you know, the doctor just took him off of 5 of those. Or if they had high blood pressure, all of a sudden they didn't. Or if they had high cholesterol, all of a sudden they were no longer taking meds for cholesterol.
Wow.
And when that wow hit me, I was like, wait, little old me and what I do is doing that. Oh, it was game on. It was like, okay, it was such an empowering thing, and not from an ego standpoint, but just like it just spoke specifically to my why. It spoke specifically to my purpose.
I want to ask you, because you're really focused on fitness, at what point did the nutrition aspect come into play?
So my entire life, I've been active from about age 8 that I can remember. I can remember like age 8 was when I got like my first trophy for playing soccer. So I've been playing organized sports since I was 8, all the way up through early college. So being active, being in shape was never really a thing. It was a habit at this point. You know, I don't feel right. Like it's been icing and snowing for the past 2 weeks. I haven't been able to run, and I feel off. You know, even though I'm doing everything else, even though I'm doing my strength training, just not getting my run in, which is a whole nother grown man evolution for me. We'll talk about that later. But my point being that what I noticed was, you know, my dad had a blood pressure incident that almost took him out about 11, 12 years ago. Actually, it did. I saw him flatline twice.
Right.
Over the course of 10 days. And he was also somebody who was active. You know, he's skinnier than me. He's not as muscular as I am. If you see us next to each other, we're kind of like the David Banner, Incredible Hulk juxtaposition. But he was very active. He called himself mining what he was eating. And so this guy ran rain, snow, sleet, shine, whatever, miles, 6-8 miles into his 60s. And so what happens is, you know, he has a blood pressure incident that almost takes him out. And after I see him come to the second time, I'm like, okay, he's going to make it through this thing. And at that point in time in my life, I was like, there's some things that I still hadn't experienced with him. Right. And I wanted him around. So I went to his house while he was still in the hospital, emptied out all of his cupboards, just anything that was just sugar, salt, fat. I just threw it all out, and then started studying textbook nutrition myself. Because I mean, I ate well,
right, for
a layperson, but you know, studying it, just how do I keep him alive now that I was aware of his condition. And so as I'm learning stuff for him, I'm learning more stuff that's just exciting. When you get exciting news, the first thing you want to do is tell somebody else. Right. So now I'm telling everybody around me, did you know that if you juice 2 times a day, and if you do this, if you do that, you can do, and did you know that this is still sugar and blah, blah, blah. And I became that guy.
Yeah.
And so, and then also I forgot to mention, even though I've always looked the part, But going to the doctor, going to the doctor, he started noticing that my cholesterol was ticking up. And I had a mean Krispy Kreme habit.
Yeah.
Mean Krispy Kreme. Like I could sense when the hot light would come on, I could sense it. And literally anywhere on long I-95, I knew where every Krispy Kreme was, from about Philadelphia. Actually, there wasn't one in Philadelphia at the time. From Baltimore all the way down to Atlanta. I knew which I could pass the exit and go.
Some of y'all watching, I know that that's you right now. I'm just
don't let this all fool you. So what happens is I'm eating these things by the dozen when they're hot, just 6, 8, 9, 10 at a time. And my doctor mentions, he says, hey man, I know you work out obviously, but your cholesterol is ticking up, and it was on the high side of good, is what he was saying. When I looked at it, he was actually being generous. It was like the low side of bad.
Yeah.
But he trusted. He said, but what he told me was, and I this is why I always stay with this doctor. Instead of putting me on meds, he said, I'm going to give you a chance to fix this with food. And that was the first time I put the two together, like food being medicine.
Right.
And I did. Now, the wild part is I fixed it with my food by making smarter choices. But what I was doing then, I would even rebuke with what I know now.
Right.
The lesson being, to what we were talking about earlier, even the incremental change is still a positive change. It's still a good step in the right direction. And anybody that knows they're good, all of a sudden is aware of how much they can be better.
Right. Right. I love this story so much because there's a lot of people who get sick or who go through different things, and they just run to somebody and say, fix me, tell me what to do. And you literally took everything into your own hands, because what a lot of people don't understand is that the medical community, and I repeat what I've said on several other episodes, we love our medical community. However, they do not have the nutrition education. They are not required to have extensive nutrition medication. You have to take it into your own hands.
I'll tell you. So I have one of my longest standing clients, one of the ones who actually was one of at least 3 that changed my life and made me realize this power that I've been talking about, that I realized I now had. So he was the lead internist at Cornell University. So he was the doctor amongst doctors at the esteemed Cornell University, right? And I was talking to him, and I was, again, I was such a zealot, I was learning all this information. And he was in some dire conditions. So I'm just beating him to death with all this information about nutrition. And after about 2 minutes of me just talking straight, I realized that he hadn't responded. And then it hit me. I was like, oh, sorry, doc. You're a doctor. I'm here insulting your intelligence. I'm here just telling you stuff you already know. My bad. I'm sorry. And he stopped me and he said, Kuti, tell me more. I've never heard any of what you're telling me before.
Right.
And I said, you're kidding. There's no way. You were the doctor amongst doctors. And he said, yes, I am. He said, yes, I am. But he said, but think about this. He says, what they call my job, if I have my own situation, it's called a practice. Doctors practice medicine. This is a doctor telling me this. Doctors practice medicine. We see things, we cut out what's not working, we treat symptoms. He said, we don't heal anybody. There's not one physician's office that's called a healing center. He said, what you're talking about is healing the human body. Tell me more. And I sat and thought about that and that whole thing about practice. And I was just like, he said, we practice medicine. We just, we figure this out, trial and error, see what goes with what. If it works, we keep doing it. If it stops, we change to something else. But we're just practicing here.
Right.
And I was just like, oh my goodness. So I respect physicians.
Right.
Like I said, I love mine, but I come into my visits, I come into my physicals armed with information.
Yes.
I do my own, like he tells me to do my own labs. Now he gives me a lab report. He gives me a lab request. He says, you do your labs. You go get your labs, review them, and then at your next visit, we'll talk about them.
Yeah.
And we have that ability. We have that power.
Yeah, I love that. It sounds like a great doctor to have that lets you take, to do that work yourself. And not, not everybody is in that space where they feel that empowerment. I know many years ago, I did not feel empowered in the doctor's office at all, but that's why we do shows like this, to help you understand that you do have that power. You can be empowered when you go and work hand in hand with your physicians because you have one body. You have one body and you got to work on it. I want to get into a little bit of a demo and also talk about your program that you have going on. So will you stick around and come back at the end and we'll do some juicing?
For sure. Let's do it.
All right, guys, we're going to be back in just a minute with Kawan Glover, but if you want to juice along with us, make sure you check out our website, our Facebook page, where you'll find the episode, and all of your ingredients that you're going to use will be there, and we'll be back in just a minute. Welcome back to the Breakthrough Show. I really love stories of overcoming adversity. I think that any story that can teach us that we can take the bad things in life and turn them into good, I think is one that we all need to hear. It can inspire us. It can encourage us to keep going. Our special guest today is a writer. He's a public speaker. He's a self-published author. And in my opinion, is a miracle because he has lived through and thrived after a stroke and 3 brain surgeries. I am super excited to welcome my new friend to the show today, Kawan Glover. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Jessica. It's an honor to be here for you and your audience, and hopefully what I share today gives somebody a little bit more hope during this dark times and the holiday season.
I love that. I love it. I'm really excited to have you here because, as I mentioned to you, my grandfather that I was very, very close to had a stroke, and it was difficult for me to see because his was so bad that he was unable to walk or talk or anything for the next 12 years that he was alive. And so I love to hear stories like this of people that have had a stroke and that have just used it to propel themselves forward and to use it as a lesson for other people, as encouragement for other people. So I absolutely love the work that you're doing in the world. I would love for you to start out by sharing something with our audience today that is bringing you joy.
Yeah, but first I would like to take time to acknowledge you for setting this up, giving, this message to your audience. There are people out there that you don't know that are listening to these episodes, they're listening to you and know your story and that are really inspired. So before I start talking, I like to take time to acknowledge you, Jessica, because you're really doing something amazing that a lot of people just aren't doing.
Thank you.
But my story, absolutely. My story is pretty simple. I was a regular guy doing regular things, and life happened to me when I was in high school. I ran track, I played football, had the grades, had the girl. Everything was okay. And then when I got to college, they flipped the script on me. Life had a different plan for me, and I went on to have. Actually, I had a brain surgery before I had a stroke because I went to my place of work, and then my mentor, Brent Simpson, he was just like, "Hey, something's wrong with you. You should go to the doctor." And I was like, "No." And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "No." And then his wife came downstairs, and I left before she said anything. And then I went to the doctor. That doctor sent me to a hospital. That hospital sent me to another hospital, and it was coming to find out that I had a cavernous malformation. Then a couple of days later, I went back to the hospital up there. They sent me home, having the first brain surgery. Then a month later, after returning to school, after a week, I had that stroke. And then from there on, my journey really starts to take form.
What were some of the symptoms that you were having? Because I imagine as little things come up, you're not thinking, oh, well, I'm probably going to have a stroke. Like, what were some of the things that you were experiencing?
And they were just so minor, and I had no recollection or understanding of anything about stroke. It doesn't really run in my family. So, I'd be texting and I couldn't control my thumb. It would slap different keys, and I'd just be like, oh, my thumb, I would like slam it on the desk or something. Like, why is my thumb new with right itself? And then, walking, like kind of swaying from side to side, not able to understand my balance. It was like, my mom was just like, oh, yeah, take your allergy medicine. And I was like, oh, okay, allergies, that's what it is. And then it became really apparent when I was talking and writing, and I can barely put the pencil to the paper. And when I was talking, it was like I was a stop motion robot. So that's when I really started to, but it still never crossed my mind, hey, these are one of the things they talk about in stroke. It was just like I never experienced it anymore. So anyway, so when it started to happen, I was just like, oh, whatever. And then when it actually happened, I knew it was a stroke, but I just didn't put two and two together, even until after it was all over.
Right, right. Were you, up until this point, would you have considered yourself a pretty positive guy, or did, when all of this happened, did it hit you pretty hard?
It's kind of, a lot of self reflection has happened, since this pandemic and things like that. I think I was pretty, I like to say quietly arrogant, and that I wasn't boisterous or loud about it, but I was confident to a fault, and that I knew things were going to go my way. I knew things were, if I put enough effort behind it, they were going to work out for me. So when it happened, I'm not a big guy. I'm all of 5'8". I was probably 120 pounds soaking wet in high school, but I was in there lifting with the football players. I had good grades. I graduated with 4.0. I was voted most likely to succeed. So when we went to college in my first semester, I got 3.75. I was just like, I got this. This is going to be easy. Yeah. And that, that overconfidence continued even after I left my first surgery, because I went right back to school. Right back to drinking and partying and doing all the things you should not supposed to be doing after brain surgery. And, I paid the price for it. So I would say it was definitely a quietly arrogant person that switched to a form of humility after you're humbled several times over by life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I ask that because I wonder sometimes, as many stories as we've heard on this show about people overcoming different things, I always wonder if it's not something that's just somebody was born with that enables them to get through times like this, or if it's just something that happens in the moment. So I feel like maybe you've always kind of had this little energy behind you that's like, I'm going to get through this. I'm going to be okay. Right.
And even now I'm starting to do a little more reflection, and maybe that quiet bravado, that very low value arrogance was a way to protect the vulnerable person I was at the time, not really knowing who I was. I had no real direction. Everything I had done up until my sophomore year in college was because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. I thought I was supposed to play sports in high school. I thought I was supposed to get good grades. I thought I was supposed to be a finance major. I thought I was supposed to go to school with my dad and had to pay a lot. But I knew I thought somehow I wasn't supposed to go to SBU in order to get a good job. And I actually wrote an article about that. And now everything I've done since then has been pretty much on my own accord. Once I was able to, after 2017, pretty much everything I did was on my own accord. And that's when I had to, I started to sit back and actually reflect, like, wow, I chose my major in college because my dad suggested it. I went into the business school because everybody on campus said it was a good school. I didn't have to apply to the business school. Somebody just got me in, and I thought I should go there. So, like, when I think about how this whole ordeal, and this is like the first time I'm saying this and realizing this, that this whole ordeal, the brain surgery, the stroke, the mental health issues, addiction, whatever, has given me the power, the strength to choose my own path. And that's a break that I'm having right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine when everything happened with the stroke and all of that, did you sort of have this, we see in the movies something happens and you kind of watch this reel of your life going through your mind and going, well, probably should have done that different and I probably should do this and I'm doing this wrong. And, did you see that happening and think, I've got to live my life for me, or did it take a little while to sort of process all of that?
After the stroke, it was definitely humbling, and I got to experience what it feels like to be an other. So when everybody looks at you as like kind of an inconvenience or a burden or someone to be pitied. But it wasn't until after 2019 when I finally had my major breakthrough of understanding that I'd fallen into guilt, and then further, even going further than that, into shame, where I started thinking ridiculous things like, I'd be in a classroom and there's a presentation happening, and if the projector didn't work, I was the problem. The reason that it didn't work was because I was there. I was the bad luck charm, and I started to see myself as a bad person. Even after my relationship ended, it ended because of me. I was the problem. I was in the way of her happiness. And it took a while for me to really understand that. And oftentimes you're not able to learn those lessons when you're going through it. Is until afterwards that you're able to look back and see. And then when the moment hits, I think it was like August 22nd of this year, and then that real started happening. Like, oh crap!
Yeah.
Like, these are all the things that led up to this one moment. And even now, like, as we're talking, I'm just like, oh crap! Like that's what it's really all about.
Yeah. Yeah. I imagine that that's such a big thing to work on, that guilt of I should have done this differently and I shouldn't have done this, and letting that go and allowing yourself to be in the moment. I know that you've been through a lot and you've really pushed through a lot of different things and persevered through so many things. I know that as a person myself who has had different health issues, that there are moments when you go, I just don't want to do this today. I'm tired. I don't, I'm hurting, whatever it is. How how do you get through those moments? How have you gotten through those moments of I just don't want to do this?
I think it's a combination of a lesson I had to learn, uh, perseverance, and being around a lot of entrepreneurial minded people. It's all about the grind. And
Mm,
the grind is not about exactly being in love with or being inspired to do something. It's just like when you do it and get it done, you reward yourself after the fact. So you feel better and more prepared to be able to attack that grind again. Even yesterday, I was just like, oh, I don't want to get up. I don't want to do any of the things. I'm writing a book right now. I'm writing a script. I'm planning out the next decade for my writing career. And I'm just like, yo, I don't even like when I'm writing right now. Like, I'm not getting up to do anything. But I did get up, and I just, I sent out some literary queries to different agents that I was doing something. So one of the things that's more practical, not so inspirational, rah rah, it's like,
yeah.
do something small.
Mm,
Start with making your bed, getting up, standing there, taking a deep breath. Those little things can propel you for more wins. On the 27th, I plan to go back to cold showers, but I'm going to do it incrementally.
mm,
Slowly incorporate those things back into your schedule. Small wins add up. So if you make your bed every day for 30 days, that's a pretty big victory, and that'll give you a lot of momentum to do everything else. So, it's on the macro. It's all about perseverance. It's all about the grind. It's all about believing in yourself. It's all about blocking the other people's opinions. It's all about gratitude. But
mm,
on the micro, it's all about the small wins.
mm,
Just adding up those small wins. How many hours did I write today? How many words did I write today? How many, you know, like, how long did it take me to make my bed today? How many prayers did I read today? Those things add up. Did I water my plant today? Did I get 8 hours of sleep? Did I say hi and good morning to my family? Those things, start having a checklist in your mind. I want here. I want here. And one of the biggest things people ignore is that if you're listening to this right now or you watching this, you're alive.
yeah.
You have internet.
Yeah.
That's a big win. A lot of people don't wake up the next day, or they don't have the capability to listen to this. So
Mhm.
everything, a lot of times we focus on our losses, I call them lessons, but it's all about talent and even the smallest of wins, because all that change eventually adds up to $1.
I love that. Oh my goodness. I'm going to put that on a pillow in my house somewhere. So good. So good. I know that gratitude has been a big part of your practice as you've moved forward, a part of your daily life. Tell us a little bit about gratitude and what it looks like for you and how it helps you.
Gratitude on a scientific level, I talked to a therapist, and what it does is it gives you a hit of dopamine and serotonin. So dopamine is like the feel good, and serotonin is like the mood stabilizer. So gratitude allows me to not only feel good, but it also is like if things around me are going bad, I'm calm and even and collected even throughout those moments. And on a more like inspirational, motivational level, gratitude allows me to really stop and smell the roses. It allows me to look up in the night sky and count the stars. It allows me to see the little insignificant things for the value they actually hold in my life. And when I'm able to say, oh, I'm alive, like, wow, like that's amazing. Everything else is easy. Like I didn't have to wake up today. So when I incorporate gratitude in my practice, it really gives me a new type of energy. I can't really, for me, it's the difference between gratitude is a part of joy, and joy is ever present to me in every situation. Happiness is fleeting. Some people reverse it, means the same thing, but gratitude is a key part of that, and keep myself level, but keep myself in a position where I'm optimistic, and it allows me to see the little victories, and no victory comes in life without a fight. So gratitude is a key piece in my foundation and allowing me to have something solid to stand on, because I'm grateful for the breath I just took, the conversation we're having, the internet I have, the book I'm writing, the book I've written, the book I'm going to write. I'm grateful for the lives that I touch, the lives that I don't touch, the people I do see, the people I don't see. And when you start, again, it's like adding up those little wins, and just keep adding them, and all those pieces of coins, they turn to a couple dollars after a while.
Yeah. I love how you said with everything that you've gone through that there's always something for you to be grateful for, because I think when in the midst of these things that happened, it can become really easy for us to generalize. So one thing happens and we say, well, my whole day sucks. Well, no, it doesn't. That one little thing maybe was a hiccup, but and then, going further than that, how many little things happen to people in 2020 and they automatically go to, well, 2020 sucked, and generalizing, and we forget to be grateful for a lot of the little things that have happened. So even though you have been through all of these different things, which some people would look and go, I just don't know if I could have done it, you've found those little things to be grateful for, even in the midst of all of that. And I think that helps push us forward too. How important has a support system been to you in your life, and who has been in your support system?
I recently found out that my grandmother, my dad's mom, she used to give my mom $100 a month just to spend time with me and help my mom out with things like that. And it's actually come full circle now that she gives me $100 a month to meet with her and talk with her and talk about spirituality, physical health, financial health, things like that. So she's been a big part. When I was going through my last surgery, my then girlfriend was a big part. My close friends and family. But I watched this experiment where they talked about they did an experiment with rats, and there was one rat they put in a cage, and there was regular water and there was cocaine water, and the rat in a cage that was empty mostly chose the cocaine water because there was nothing in the cage. But when they put like rat races and different obstacle courses and stuff in the cage, when they put more rats in the cage, the rat chose the regular water. It's not all the time about what you're feeling, it's about your environment. So when you feel and I say feel because people a lot of times take ownership of things, like I'm depressed or I'm angry or I'm sad. And I'm like, no, you feel sad, you feel angry, you feel depressed, but you're not those things because you can only be you. You're not feeling. There are these things that happen. So when you have a strong support system, your environment is vibrant. You have no choice to be energetic and more positive because the people around you are pushing on you. And for me, it was like I felt like if I wasn't upbeat, if I wasn't optimistic, everyone around me crumbles. And then when your support system is no longer there, like you're in the pit by yourself, and it's hard to climb up a situation or out of a circumstance by yourself. So support system is important. 11 out of the 10 times it's important. Like it's always ever present.
Yeah, I love that. Tell us a little bit about your book, Favor. We see it in the background there. I love it. Tell us a little bit about why you decided to write it and what it's all about.
Yeah, I think people you need to write a book about it. After everything was over, you got a story to tell. And I gotta be honest with you, Jessica, I don't like being on camera. I don't really like being in crowds. I don't really like talking. But I knew I had to get this story out.
Yeah.
And when I started writing it, it was July 13th, 2018 at 6:53 a.m. in the morning. And I wrote that date down, and there's a timestamp. And I was just like, oh, I'm going to write this story. So I wrote initially about it from the time I was born till up until that moment. And then when I just didn't, I wanted to get it all out. So it was like, I was writing in my diary online. And I was just like, I'm going to put it all in there. And when I got done with that draft, I was like, now I can breathe. And then went to the next part of the process. There's difference between writing your story, writing your journey, getting it out, and then there's writing a book. And then I started, letting people read it. And it was just like, the first response I got back, she was just like, yeah, go on. I don't know how to say this, but this book sucks. And I was just like, you're talking about my whole life? Like my life sucks? Are you kidding me? And then my editor, she actually said, yeah, it was like a punch in the stomach, like hard. And my editor was just like, what you written here was a straight autobiography. And that's usually reserved for people who have some historical significance. So like a Barack Obama or George Washington. And what I do is I'm a sculptor, and I take a fine tooth comb to ruffle the edges, smooth out the edges. What you giving me is a block of wood. I'm gonna need to take an axe to it. And I was just like, oh, okay, got it. And I did that, and she gave me like a booklet of notes to enhance the story. And after that, the book was taking shape, and I started to really understand. And that's when I tapped into who I really was supposed to be. I am a storyteller. I'm a creative writer. And when I started weeding elements of storytelling, and I thought about the movies, I thought about the YouTube videos, I thought about the pieces of content that actually grabbed my attention, that's when I started to really make it into a book and not just writing about my life. And I think that's an important distinction when you're in the literary realm. I know what happened to me, so it's easy for me to write about what I think happened from my perspective. But I had to begin to understand that, it's about what the reader's going to learn from it. And then I started thinking about what's the bigger purpose for myself. And that's when I had to realize all this happened to you. I should be like, woe was me, and I'm upset, and this isn't fair. But then I started realizing all this happened to me, and like 10% of it was for my benefit, but 90% was so I can have the story to tell other people so they can look at themselves and learn something from it and avoid that dark hole that I fell into. Like I've been in the darkness. I know what it feels like to be embraced by misery's hug. I know what it feels like to live in a neighborhood filled with victims. I know what victimhood feels like. This story is to give you a message of hope and get you out of victimhood into victory, to see the light at the end of that dark tunnel. And it favor, when you think about it, you can't really describe it in words. It's more of a biblical type of concept. But somebody said it's like, when you do someone a favor, this was my favor I was doing this for God, and that really allowed me to like bring it all together. And writing a book is not easy. Being vulnerable is not easy. I like to say vulnerability is my superpower, but there's another side of vulnerability that I'm learning about now. And I think, as I continue my writing journey, as I write my books, this one will be my origin story, and you can learn quite a bit from it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. And like I said in the beginning, I think that everybody, when we hear stories of what is possible in your life of overcoming, it does, at minimum, it can tell us what's possible, but also encourage us to keep going where we're at, especially if we're going through things ourselves as well. I know you mentioned writing as one of the things you're working on now, but tell us what else you're working on for the future and what's next for you.
So I'm definitely doing a my second book. It's more like, whereas this first book favors my origin story, this book is more like, okay, here are the lessons that you may have missed, or here are some things I've experienced before or after that you can learn from to have a better life. So I talk about something like the concept at the bottom of the V, and that everything about my logo, who I am, is about victory. And I didn't realize like the man on this logo is like a V. There's a V on that thing back there. I didn't realize the creator put there. And every victory requires a battle. And in that battle, you go downhill to the valley and up back to the peak. And at the bottom, it's like rock bottom. And that's the point where it's not your fault that things that have happened, but it is your responsibility to make a decision to continue that fight and finish it to achieve the victory you want in your life. So I talk about vulnerability. I talk about the bottom of the V. I talk about, good stewardship financially. I talk about having a mentor. I talk about a concept called cannibals, cups, and containers. That's something you'll learn something about. So there are a number of different things. Right now it's about 26 chapters, but they're going to be short, just like this book. And got a lot more stuff in the way. I have a whole fiction world that I've started drafting up. So that's going to be under a pen name, and maybe you'll hear about it someday. And I have a expose on the healthcare system. I'm writing a screenplay for the book I just put out. I have a lot of things in store that I want to use because I wanted to be my dad growing up. I want to be analytical, logical, work with computers, work with my hands. But I'm just not. I'm a writer, and I'm okay with that now. So I'm going to use that talent to be the best version of myself I can be.
I love that. I love that you continue to grow and you continue to share your story. And I'm so thankful that we've had the opportunity to have you on the show and share, that what's possible in your life, no matter what you've been through, that you can push through, because I know we barely touched the surface today. You've also dealt with different things with suicide and addiction and depression and debt and all of these different aspects of your life. And so, we've talked about the stroke today and different things and the brain surgeries. And so we barely scratched the surface, but I just wanted to mention those things because I want people to understand like how much you have not just survived these things, but you're thriving and you're continuing to grow and move forward and make good choices and be an inspiration for other people. So I just want to thank you so much for the work that you're doing in the world. And thank you so much for being on here with us today to share your story.
Thank you so much for having me. And to your audience, before I go, the darkest night always comes for the brightest morning, and your morning is coming.
I love it. I love it. Thanks so much for being here, Kawan. We appreciate you.
Of course. Thank you.
All right, guys, we'll be back in just a minute for more of The Breakthrough Show. Breakthroughs are about more than you might think. They're about discovering who you are, digging deep, reaching to the core of your soul. They're about healing. Healing yourself, understanding your beliefs, creating a ripple effect. And it's not just those initial moments that matter. It's about using them to bring more joy into our own lives and the lives of others.
It's about having fun, letting loose, enjoying every moment life has to offer. It's about finding a safe space. It's about creating connection. Join us each and every month for exclusive programming, where we invite you to go beyond the breakthrough. So we ask you, are you ready? We'll see you online at thebreakthroughshow.com.
Welcome back to the Breakthrough Show. Wasn't our guest today, Kawan Glover, amazing? I'm back now with my friend Kuti Mack, and we are in the kitchen today because we are going to juice. And we were talking before Kawan came on today about the power of nutrition as a part of our holistic wellness. And juicing has been something important to you, right?
It is. I mean, if it's one habit that you take away from watching, listening to this show, watching, listening to me in any arena that you find me, it is juicing. If you can juice vegetables, and see, a lot of people confuse a few things when it comes to juicing. When you say juicing, everybody goes, oh, I know what you're talking about. And most of the time, what they're talking about is smoothies. They're talking about blending something up, the fiber's still there. Now, there's nothing wrong with a smoothie, but smoothies are different from juicing. Smoothies are like meal replacements, okay? Because the difference being with a juicer, it'll extract the liquid and the nutrition on one end, and then it'll put the fiber on the other.
Right.
But not having that fiber be a part of the mix when you're ingesting it means that it hits your bloodstream fast. I'm talking like 10 to 15 minutes. It's in your blood, it's in your system, and it's there sticking. Whereas your body's got to metabolize the fiber. So it's almost like you've done the chewing ahead of time by making it a smoothie, but it's still solid food. So your body still got to metabolize and digest it. And there's nothing wrong with that because smoothies are good. I'm not dissing smoothies. What I am saying is that smoothies are not juices.
We're going to juice today. Tell us what we're juicing.
Okay, no problem. So the first thing I like to do, I like to get my spinach bagged because it's already cleaned and I don't have to worry about washing it. That's arduous in and of itself. Washing leaves and then them not being super icky when it's all said and done is tough. Now you can do any dark leafy green, right? We'll put the spinach in. I have a masticating juicer, which means it's a slow grind, cold pressing juicer. But what you want to do is intermittently throw in, can you hand me a cucumber, please? You want to intermittently throw in some cucumbers. Cucumbers, what I do is I half them and then I quarter them. And cucumbers, what are you trying to do? Oh, you want to put it in? Cucumbers have a lot, they're like 60, 70% water.
Right.
So they're going to be the thing that washes all the nutrition through. So you put a couple leaves in and then you back it up with a cucumber and all the nutrition that's available to come through will come through your juicer that way. So give me some more spinach, please. Thank you. So we're juicing this like so. We keep going at that interval. Cucumber, throwing a little bit of ginger if you're really concerned about taste. And ginger does have anti-inflammatory properties. So ginger is a great additive, not just for taste, but for effectiveness. So we got a lemon or a lime. If you like lemons, you like limes, that's a good addition too. I'll look the other way. I'll act like you're not juicing fruit. It's okay. Plus they give you more volume when it comes down to the liquid.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So again, base ingredients. Always have a dark leafy green. I'd say spinach for starters, and cucumbers. I usually use about 2 good-sized cucumbers or 3. Sometimes the grocery store has those small rinky-dink ones. Get like 2 or 3 of those, and you have enough to make enough for either 2 servings for yourself for the day or 2 servings for you and someone else.
That's one of the things that I wanted to really hammer home today and touch on with you is, you don't have to watch a show like this and go like literally throw everything in your house, everything. I mean, there are cases where, yes, that might be necessary for you to do, but for the most part, the majority of people, you don't have to go turn your entire life upside down, but just making little choices, making better choices.
I agree. Yeah. I'm interjecting only because this habit that I'm showing you right here, even I got to remind myself to do it, right?
Right.
But I promise every single person watching and listening that if you commit to this habit, juicing green vegetables without fruit, all that other stuff comes easy. It looks like we're almost done
All
here.
right.
I want to see if I can just pour a little.
Oh, yes. And so this will have, we've got a bag of spinach, we've got a couple of cucumbers, and then you can also put in there some lemon, lime, and ginger root if you want.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yep.
this makes 2 juices for the day?
Yep, this makes 2 juices for the day. And yeah, this makes 2 juices for the day. And just, I would say just increase your cucumber if you want to add more volume.
Oh, we got to get yes, we have to get the fancy glasses going on there too. Make
All
yourself
right.
feel
So yeah,
good.
so she's got her goblet. I've got my 10 ounces here.
There we go.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Now let's see. You tell me.
Is good?
The 7-year-old can do it and enjoy it. This actually is pretty good. It's got like a lemon. It's like a lemon zest in there. We use 1 whole lemon, and yeah. And if throw it on ice. The colder, the better.
Awesome. Well, I want to hear about your program. You have a program called 6-Week Super You Fitness Reboot. Tell us about that.
Yes, so the 6-week Super You is basically the culmination of my over a decade and a half of experience training people. I started realizing that there were some common things that A, people were looking for, and B, that I was espousing. So there were 6 pillars to my program. And in general, I have what I call the Super Trio. The Super Trio, 3 things that I just try to make sure that people get every single time. You've gotten some of them here already. We've gotten 2 of them here already. So it's super facts, information, super foods, juicing is the number 1, and super moves, the actual exercises that actually, and what makes super moves, just like with superfoods they're healthy foods, then they're foods that have such a nutritious punch that they're just better bang for your buck. They help you in very quick, efficient ways, like juicing, right? So with super moves, these are exercises that don't take a whole, 45, 50 minutes to execute. You can do these in 4-minute increments. Sometimes they might be as long as 8 minutes. You string one of them alone could be a workout, like that 4 to 6 minutes could be a workout, but then stack 2 or 3 of them if you just feel like working out longer, and you'll have absolutely one of the best workouts you've ever had. Those are the super moves. So first week would be detoxing. Second week would be about energy. The third week will be about strength building. The fourth week would be about fat burning. The fifth week will be about stress reduction. And that's something that you don't hear talked about in fitness programs. And especially this past year, which is still carrying over. It's almost.
What do you mean?
Exactly. It's already worked wonders for people. I beta tested it last year, and the success stories were amazing. I thought it would just be like 6 weeks of tutorial and reboot and then move on. There are still people who did it the very first time that are still active in their group, talking to each other, talking about juicing. Like it's something that they stay around the campfire, and it's become a destination. It's become a destination as opposed to just a pit stop. And I'm humbled by that, but the program works. And if you're interested in it, you can go to 6weeksuperyou.com. That's the number 6, 6weeksuperyou.com. Just put your information in there. I'll send you some more information about it. I have cohorts every couple of weeks, and we get in and we get you better. I mean, even doing it one time is an incremental step. It's an incremental step towards being your best daily. That's why it's be your best daily. It's like, it's not be your best, forever and just today.
Yeah.
Just today, taking that step. And if you continue to take that step today, after 7 days, guess what? You've had your best week. After 4 of those, guess what? You've had your best month. Okay. After 12 of those, you've had your best.
Yeah.
That's
After
right.
10 of those, you've had your best. You see how that goes?
Well, this has been so much fun. And I definitely, like I mentioned, I want to have you back on so we can talk music sometimes, because that would be a lot of fun. But it's been such a pleasure having you here, my friend. Thank you so much for sharing this knowledge with us.
Thanks for having me, Jessica. This has been amazing.
Absolutely. All right, guys, this has been an incredible show. I want to thank our special guest today, Kawan Glover, and of course, Kuti Mack, for the incredible stories, the demo, the nutrition. We're coming away with so much from this episode, you guys. Make sure you check out the show notes and find out how you can connect with our guests today. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and until next week, make every day a great day for a breakthrough. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Breakthrough.